Why did Jesus say, if someone slaps you on one cheek, show him the other as well? Or, if someone forces you to walk 1 mile with him, walk with him too? Many have wondered what this teaching could really mean. Is it to be understood literally, or is it to be understood in a general and expansive manner? That's a question I propose to address through this video. I hope you find the contents interesting and meaningful. Let me state the main insight first. To me, this teaching is part of Jesus' general teaching regarding humankind's moral freedom. Moral freedom. In the 4th chapter of Luke's Gospel, verse 18, Jesus says, among other things, that he has come to set the captives free. So human freedom was right at the top of Jesus' mission agenda. Freedom is God's gift to human beings. Freedom is at the root of our being human. The pathos of losing freedom is not only that we are thereafter constrained or limited in our movements, but also that we are alienated from our humanity. Freedom is fundamentally freedom to be human, and even more importantly, freedom to be fully human. And an important aspect of that freedom is moral freedom or inner freedom. Political freedom is external freedom. So also social freedom, economic freedom, cultural freedom. Freedom that is within us, the freedom of our inner life, or in religious language, the freedom of the inner man, is moral freedom. And to Jesus, moral freedom was the essence of all other freedoms. To be able to make healthy, meaningful use of all other aspects of freedom, all of which are important, it is essential that we gain an increase in moral freedom. And the teachings of Jesus Christ are all devoted to strengthening human beings in their moral freedom. Now, an important aspect of moral freedom, or the most powerful medium through which moral freedom is expressed, interestingly, is through our reactions rather than actions. Many people would think that it's more logical to attach greater significance to actions. Actions are surely important. But in light of moral freedom, the most important aspect of our life, our conduct, the way we respond to the world around us, the way we express ourselves, is not actions but reactions. How do we react to the given context? And Jesus takes the extreme case. Instances of extreme provocation. All of a sudden, somebody comes and slaps you on your cheek. Now, surely, it is a very major insult. All of us, all human beings, attach importance to their faces, perhaps more than most other parts of the human anatomy. It's the face that commands a great deal of specialized attention. And therefore, we attach very great significance to human face. Actually, we feel, experience, evaluate, enjoy, or feel alienated from individuals, mainly in terms of how we read their faces or what is evident on their faces. That's why face is considered the mirror of the human being, the mirror of the heart. Now there, somebody slaps, obviously without any provocation. And therefore, Jesus is identifying or using the most extreme form of provocation. Now, a provocation to which you have to respond. There are two types of provocations. One is provocations to which responding may be purely optional. You can completely overlook the provocation. For example, somebody says something ill of you. It's not necessary that you respond. Or somebody takes away something that belongs to you. It's not necessary that you respond. Or somebody sort of causes slight inconvenience to you. It's unfortunate, but it's not necessary that you should react in a violent manner. But if somebody slaps you on your cheek, it's a different matter altogether. Now, when somebody slaps you on your cheek, suddenly an overwhelming force begins to operate on you. And if you examine that force, it is largely social. The society in which you have grown up, whose mores you have imbibed, mandates, compels, stipulates that you react. Otherwise, your honor is at stake. Now, clearly, honor is a social construct. Your sense of honor will vary from society to society, and within the society, the particular section of the society to which you belong. If you are a part of the social elite and then you're slapped on your cheek, it's a very different thing from somebody very low down being slapped on the cheek. Slap need not be a hard blow. It can be just a slap with the back of the hand, just to show contempt. So slapping an aristocrat is not the same as slapping a menial person. So it varies. The insult of it, the provocation of it, the degree of offense felt by the person slapped depends on the variable contexts. So it's an existing social norm or norms that compel you to react. And the first thing you must remember is that when you are slapped and you feel that provocation within, you suddenly lose control over yourself and something other than you takes possession of you. And what is that other thing that takes possession of you now? It's the social norms, social mores, social standards, social assumptions, social expectations. So, when you respond to the slap that you accidentally, unmeritedly received on your cheek, if you are just the ordinary kind of person without any moral freedom and spiritual training, suddenly you are completely overwhelmed, taken over by social forces. And you will not be acting as a distinct and discrete individual. You're acting merely as a representative of the society. Society will be reacting through you, and you think that it's your reaction. No, it's not your reaction at all. Truth to tell, it is the society's reaction to an individual's act of provocation. Why? The reason is very simple. Society is organized in terms of security. And security demands that acts of provocation be reacted to, because if they are not reacted to and curtailed, then social chaos, anarchy will result. That's why every society inculcates in its members, in all sorts of ways, from birth onwards, the duty to react, so that acts of aggression are not allowed a free play in a society and are checked instead. So what happens when you're provoked is that you lose your moral freedom to act as a person who thinks and decides for himself or herself. You act as though you're a mere member of the society whose norms you are called upon without any choice to express. And the society mandates that you slap back. For what? It is not that if you slap back, the pain on your cheek where you received the slap is mitigated. No. It is a society's sense of honor that impels you, compels you, forces you to slap back. Now, therefore, now we can understand why Jesus taught this. The first thing that we must realize about our reaction is that our reactions are not our own reactions. They may appear to be, and we may think that there are reactions. But in fact, our reactions are inspired by a hidden force, the society hiding within us, that compels us to react in a particular set and stereotypical manner. And that is why I say that in this kind of conditioned reaction, our moral freedom is zero. If all of us are under compulsion to react in a particular manner in the face of provocations, then our moral freedom is zero. And the society has all the freedom to express itself through us in order to protect its own stability, its own interest, whatever. So at that particular time of reaction, the simple truth is that we are not reacting as well-defined individuals with distinctive character and moral values, but as mere replicas or clones or carbon copies of the society. Every other individual also will react in this manner. So it's a regimented reaction, and every regimented reaction reduces moral freedom to zero, not even 1%, to zero. So that's the reason why we need to be aware of how we react if you are interested in our moral freedom. The next important thing about reactions is that all reactions are set and stereotypical. The society has inculcated in us certain notions, and these notions are imbibed. Nobody will teach us in a school, college, or university. We imbibe these notions by virtue of growing up in a particular society. So society has, in a very imperceptible manner, over a period of time, injected into us or inculcated in us set ways of responding to provocations as well as external stimuli of every kind. That's what the learning from life is all about. Now, while this is necessary for a variety of reasons, but when it comes to moral freedom or enlarging moral freedom, it is necessary that we exceed the social mores that are injected into us or inculcated in us. So every stereotype, every settled and set way of acting and reacting indicates the limited extent of our moral freedom. And the spiritual task is to enlarge our moral freedom, enlarge the scope and the possibilities of our moral freedom. Now, when I say that by virtue of our social conditioning, our reactions are set or settled or regimented, what I mean is that we are thereby denied the inner freedom to imagine a different kind of reaction. If somebody slaps you on one cheek, slapping him in return is not the only reaction possible. There are other reactions possible, other ways of dealing with it possible. In fact, if you are creative, if you believe that you have a unique individuality or personality, if you believe that you represent humanity at a level higher than that of the aggressor who slapped you on one cheek, then you must be able to understand the situation, including the agent who provoked you, the context, the social as well as personal context, differently from how otherwise you would understand. If you're understanding and therefore your reactions are exactly the same as that of any other person in the society, then in what manner or way are you better than or superior to anybody else? To what extent is your moral freedom larger than that of anybody else, including the person who has arbitrarily slapped you on your cheek? He had no business to do that, but he has done it. We do not know why. Maybe he had a quarrel, a fight with his wife. Maybe his children provoked him. Maybe he has been dealing with some unresolved problems and he was at his wit's end. And maybe therefore, when he saw you and he particularly didn't like the way you looked at that time, you may not even have looked at him, or you may have looked at him without meaning anything. And you do not know how you provoked him. But the fact is that you received a slap on your face, on your cheek. So, at that point in time, all your other possibilities are abolished. Your imagination is paralyzed. Your thinking is frozen. And you are made to, and you happen to react unless you are morally mature, unless you are spiritually liberated. You become reduced to that set, regimented way of responding. Jesus says that is not good for you. If you want to develop your moral freedom, then you have to claim your right and exercise your duty to be intensely human, in spite of, maybe even because of the slap you have received. And looking at it from a commonplace point of view, you might think that it is impossible, or you might even think that it's stupid. But if you really look at it in terms of the higher reason that Jesus uses, namely the reason to mature in your understanding of an exercise of moral freedom, then you will realize that this Jesus' teaching makes far better sense than slapping somebody in the back in return. Now, what was the old Mosaic law? It was the law of equivalence. That is, if someone slaps you, you can slap back. I think in law this is called lex talionis. I hope I get it right. Lex talionis. That is the doctrine of equivalence. If somebody has given you one slap, you're permitted to give him one slap back. If somebody has taken one tooth, one of your teeth, you can take one of his teeth. So an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That's the old Mosaic law. Jesus takes human moral freedom way ahead from where Moses left off. And he says that this inner conditioning that you suffer from, of which you are completely unaware by virtue of being born into and being raised in this kind of social context, whose values and norms you have imbibed without really examining them, you have to actually go beyond the social assumptions, the stereotypes, and the mores of your society if you want to enlarge your moral freedom. So that is the reason why overcoming or breaking the shackles of our social determination, social conditioning, is an important aspect of our moral freedom. Now, obviously you can answer back saying that in the kind of society in which we live, if somebody slaps me on one cheek and show him the other, he will slap on the other cheek also and merely go away, congratulating himself, because people have become so boorish, so insensitive, so lumpenized. Now that may be true, but at the same time, what is the other alternative? Somebody slaps me on one cheek, I give him a slap in return, then he gives me two slaps, then I have to return two. That goes on and on and on, and there is no end to it. That's why Gandhi, given his saintly, sanctified common sense, he said, in a society governed by the old principle of an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, everybody will be teethless and eyeless. Gandhi believed in the doctrine of ahimsa, non-violence, and therefore he understood the teachings of Jesus Christ better than most Christians do. So Gandhi also believed in the tremendous importance of enlarging our moral freedom. So I have to conclude by saying that this is not easy. It's easy to talk about it, but it's not easy to practice. But nothing that really contributes to human greatness, the quality of being human, human stature, as well as human freedom, all of which belong together, is easy. I remember reading in a book some time ago that he who wants to take life lightly cannot take it greatly. Please remember this. He who wants to take his life lightly, easy way, cannot take it greatly, cannot attain greatness of life. Jesus expressed this idea through a kind of parable. You find that in the 7th chapter of Matthew's Gospel, verses 13 and 14, if I remember right, where Jesus says there are two ways, the narrow way and the broad way. And the narrow way is what Jesus here illustrates through the doctrine of the other cheek. Only a person who is clearly inclined to and is convinced of the wisdom of choosing the narrow way over the broad way, which initially looks from a shallow point of view rather attractive, certainly more attractive than the narrow way. Only a person who, upon mature conviction, chooses to walk the narrow way will be inclined to give it a try, to even consider Jesus' wisdom as stated in the doctrine of the other cheek. So, by practicing the doctrine of the other cheek, we exceed the righteousness of the society, or the sense of right and wrong, the sense of justice, the sense of propriety, entertained by the society to which we belong. And unless and until, as Jesus says, unless and until your justice exceeds the justice of the scribes and Pharisees, and in this context we might say our sense of justice exceeds the justice of the society to which we belong, we cannot do any good to that society. We have to have a higher level of moral freedom to be able to exert a beneficial influence on the society to which we belong. If it is only to lift oneself that one is interested in, then of course all these teachings are highly provocative, they are vexatious, they are an inconvenience, and you can only run away from them and condemn them as impractical, even mad, insane. But on the other hand, if you're really interested in increasing the extent of your moral freedom, if you want to become a more evolved human being, then the teachings of Jesus Christ can be immensely attractive and profoundly stimulating. And I submit these thoughts to your continued reflection. Have a great day.